My sister just uninvited me from her wedding, and I want to know if I'm the one wrong here. For months on end, I have been the one handling almost everything for my sister's wedding, planning, organizing, taking care of all the details without charging her anything. Just to give you some context, I actually work as a wedding planner, so this is my profession. I've planned and managed plenty of weddings before, so when my sister's fiancé proposed about 4 months ago, she naturally turned to me for help. Out of kindness and because she's my sister, I agreed to take it on. Looking back, I honestly feel like agreeing to plan her wedding was the worst decision I've ever made. Instead of making things easier, my sister made the whole experience a complete nightmare. She turned into a full-on bridezilla. And I don't use that word lightly. From the moment she woke up in the morning until late at night, my phone would be blowing up with messages from her. She constantly wanted to talk about her vision for the wedding. But the problem was she didn't actually have a clear vision. One day she would be obsessed with the idea of a soft pastel themed wedding. And then literally the next day she'd throw that out the window and say she wanted a full anime style wedding. It was exhausting because she could never make up her mind. And every time she changed it, it meant redoing all the work I had already done. She would keep telling me over and over that all she wanted was a wedding that would make everyone say wow and be unforgettable. That was her biggest goal. Now, one important thing to know about my sister is that she's what you'd call an influencer. She shares practically every single part of her life online, no matter how small. She has this habit of sticking a camera in everyone's face whenever we're together, whether we like it or not. During the whole wedding planning phase, she never went anywhere without her camera. She filmed almost everything, but what made it unbearable was that if she didn't like some of the things I had arranged or suggested, she wouldn't just quietly tell me. Instead, she'd criticize me right there on camera in front of her followers, like I was just another vendor she had hired. It was humiliating, like the time I had carefully planned out for her and her bridesmaids to go wedding dress shopping. I thought it would be fun, special experience for all of them. A chance to relax, try on beautiful dresses and make some good memories. But instead, it turned into a complete disaster. My sister kept insisting to the store staff that she was a size 8, when in reality, she's a size 12. Obviously, if you're a size 12, you can't squeeze into a size 8 dress. And the poor staff were just trying to gently explain that to her. But instead of listening, she completely lost it. She started yelling at everyone, acting like it was their fault and making this huge scene in front of all the other customers. It got so bad that one of the staff members actually broke down in tears because of how cruel she was being. When I tried to step in and calm her down, she turned on me in front of everyone. And of course, while recording me for her followers. She started yelling that I had purposely brought her to a horrible store just to ruin her day. She even went as far as saying that as her sister and her wedding planner, I should have protected her and made sure she wasn't humiliated like that. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had spent so much time setting up that day for her, and somehow she twisted it into being my fault. Not only were they ugly, but they didn't even go with the wedding theme she had been describing to me. And when I asked her why she wanted those particular dresses, she straight up said she chose them because she wanted her bridesmaids to look ugly, so that she would stand out as the most attractive one in every photo. She didn't care about how her friends would feel wearing something so unflattering. All she cared about was making herself look better by comparison. Of course, when the bridesmaids finally saw the dresses, they hated them. You could see it all over their faces. They were uncomfortable, embarrassed, and honestly shocked that my sister would even pick something like that. A few of them tried to gently talk to her about it, hoping she might reconsider, but instead of owning up to the fact that it was her choice, she immediately threw me under the bus. She told them it was my idea, that I had picked those dresses and they needed to respect my vision as the wedding planner. I just stood there in disbelief while she lied straight to their faces. Not only did she dump the blame on me, but she made me look like the bad guy in front of her friends. And the worst part was, I couldn't even defend myself without making the whole situation blow up further. So once again, I just stayed quiet, even though inside I was furious. Planning her bachelorette trip was nothing short of a horror movie. First, she decided she wanted to go all out and have the trip in Mexico. Problem was, she expected our mom and dad to cover all the costs, not just for her, but for her and all her bridesmaids. Now, our parents were already spending a fortune on the wedding itself, so when they told her they simply couldn't pay for the trip too, she completely lost it. That's when she turned to me. She actually demanded that I cover all of their expenses. I was stunned. Not only do I not have that kind of money, but even if I did, why on earth would I spend it on her and her friends partying in Mexico? Especially when I wasn't even invited to come along. The audacity was unreal. In the end, after I said no, my sister had no choice but to take her bridesmaids out to a local pub for her bachelorette night, about a week before the wedding. That same night, she showed up at my house drunk and immediately started laying into me. She went on and on about how I had failed her as her older sister because I wouldn't pay for her dream trip. She said that since she was already broke from covering the rest of her wedding expenses, the least I could have done was pay for her to have a proper bachelorette party, and that I should have considered it my wedding gift to her. I just sat there in disbelief, wondering how she could be so entitled. Somehow I was still the villain for not handing over my savings just so she and her friends could drink on a beach in Mexico. I pointed out to her that I was already giving her my professional services for free, that I had been planning her entire wedding without charging her a single penny. I asked her what more she expected me to do. She actually laughed like a full-on guffaw and told me that planning a wedding wasn't even that hard and that anyone could do it. Hearing that from her after months of stress and sleepless nights trying to juggle everything for her made my blood boil. Felt like a slap in the face, like all my time and effort meant absolutely nothing to her. But because she was drunk, I told myself she probably didn't mean it and was just talking nonsense. I was so angry, but instead of arguing with her, I let her crash on my couch and sleep it off. The next morning she acted like nothing had ever happened, like she hadn't insulted me or blamed me for everything the night before. Today, just 2 days before her wedding, my parents called me and said they had something important to discuss with me. I went over to their house expecting a regular conversation and was surprised to see my sister sitting there with them. I didn't even know she was going to be there. The moment I walked in, I could tell something was off. The three of them looked unusually serious and somber, and the atmosphere felt heavy. My sister started talking in that fake syrupy tone she sometimes uses when she's trying to sound sincere. She said she was so grateful for everything I had done to help with the wedding, the planning, the decorations, all the hours I had put in. At first I felt a small flicker of relief, thinking maybe she was finally going to acknowledge my effort. But then she paused, looked at me, and said she had something important to tell me. My stomach dropped. I felt a wave of nervousness and asked her what it was. And that's when she dropped the bomb. She said she didn't want me to attend her wedding. I just froze. I stared at her in absolute shock, unable to process what I was hearing. My own sister, after all the months I had spent planning, helping, even sacrificing my own time and energy for her, was uninviting me from her own wedding? I couldn't even find words. It felt like the ground had completely disappeared under my feet. My sister continued trying to justify herself, saying that this wasn't personal at all. She claimed that she just didn't want her in-laws to see me for who I am. I was completely taken aback. I couldn't even begin to understand what she meant or why she would say something like that after everything I had done for her. Then, to make matters worse, Mom jumped in. She actually agreed with my sister and said that it might be better if I just skipped the wedding. She told me that because of my condition, staying away would prevent me from embarrassing my sister in front of her new family. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. First my sister and now my own mother was suggesting I be excluded from a milestone moment in my family's life. After all the time, effort and love I had put into making her wedding happen. For anyone wondering what my so-called condition is, I'm an acid attack survivor. When I was 16, an ex-boyfriend attacked me by throwing acid on my face, simply because I had the courage to leave him. His goal was to hurt me and deform my face. I was rushed to the hospital immediately, and since then I've undergone multiple surgeries to repair the damage. Despite all that, the scars are still there, a permanent reminder of what I went through. Over the years, I've gone through intense therapy, worked hard to come to terms with my face. I've had to learn to live with it, and in the process, I've also learned not to let other people's opinions control me. What happened to me wasn't my fault, and I refuse to feel ashamed of surviving something so traumatic. But my family has been a completely different story. They've always been embarrassed by the way my face looks now. Even after everything I've endured and all the progress I've made in accepting myself, they've never fully accepted me the way I am. I first noticed when my parents would deliberately make me sit out of family events, claiming they didn't want anyone to get scared when they saw me. It was subtle at first, but over time it became clear that they were excluding me because of how I look. Whenever I went out with my mom and sister, they would constantly insist that I cover my face with a scarf or a mask. No matter the weather, no matter the occasion, it was always about hiding myself for their sake, not about my comfort or my feelings. Eventually, as I began to accept my face and genuinely love myself despite what had happened, I decided to put my foot down. I refused to cover my face with scarves or masks just to make others feel comfortable. I was done hiding who I am. Of course, this didn't go over well with my sister. She would erupt in anger, yelling at me and saying that people would ask her questions about what had happened to my face. She complained that she was embarrassed of me, as if my existence and survival was something shameful that reflected poorly on her. It was infuriating and heartbreaking all at once, no matter how much I had learned to accept myself. My own family seemed incapable of seeing me beyond my scars. Over the years, I've had countless fights with my family, all in an effort to make them accept me for who I am. For a while, I thought maybe they had finally started to accept me. I allowed myself to believe that the constant tension and arguments were behind us. But I was wrong. I realized today that my sister and even my parents are still not comfortable with my face. The ultimate proof of that came when they told me they wanted me to sit out on my own sister's wedding. Their reasoning was that they didn't want people to see me for who I am. Hearing that from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally was absolutely devastating. My dad tried to calm me down, saying that I shouldn't take this uninvitation personally. He claimed they were just trying to do what was best to preserve the family image. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked him honestly and pointedly, what was so wrong with my face that it could possibly harm their image in any way? That's when my sister, clearly exasperated, let out a heavy sigh of irritation and said the words that cut me to the bone. She told me I looked like an alien, and that if I were at her wedding, people would stare at me and talk more about me than about her. She justified saying that, except for her fiancé and a few of her bridesmaids, almost no one knew she had a deformed sister, and she wanted things to remain that way. Hearing her say that felt like the ultimate betrayal, not just from her, but from the family I thought I could trust. At that moment, I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. I couldn't hold back my frustration and hurt, and I asked her, "If that's how you feel, then why did you even ask me to plan your wedding? Why involve me at all, only to turn around and uninvite me at the last minute?" She looked at me almost matter-of-factly and said that initially she thought she could handle having me there on her wedding day. But as the big day got closer, she kept thinking about it more and more, and she realized she wasn't comfortable with the idea anymore. I just shook my head at her and stood up. At that point, there was nothing left for me to say. If this is how my sister truly felt about me, and if my parents were supporting her, then there was absolutely nothing I could do to change their minds. I didn't want them to see me cry or show them how deeply their words had hurt me. So, holding back my tears, I told them that I was done and walked out of their house as quickly as I could. My parents did nothing to stop me. I ran out, got into my car, finally letting myself break down and cry once I knew my family couldn't see me. The tears just wouldn't stop. I had never felt so rejected or hurt in my entire life. Right now, as I'm writing this, I keep asking myself over and over if this is even normal. I know my face has scars and I've accepted that for myself, but is it really normal for a family to uninvite a sibling from their own wedding simply because of how they look? I just can't understand how my family can treat me this way. I feel completely alone at this moment. So Reddit, AITA for being upset about this, or should I just accept it for what it is? Update 1. I've now come to realize, after reading all the comments, that my sister has been basically taking advantage of me to plan her wedding. It's clear to me now that she was just using me all along for her wedding planning. Right now, I feel really heartbroken, rejected, and angry. I never expected my own sister and parents to treat me like this, especially after everything I've done for her and the family. At the same time, I'm trying to remind myself that this is about their issues with my scars, not my worth as a person. Update 2. Guys, the wedding is tomorrow, and I just got a call from my sister's fiancé. He sounded genuinely concerned and told me that he had heard from my sister that I had supposedly decided not to attend the wedding. He wanted to know why, since he had already paid for my seat, assuming I would be there. He sounded genuinely concerned, and it made me realize that maybe, just maybe, not everyone saw me as a problem or thought I should be hidden away. So I hesitantly told him the truth, or at least half of it, that it was actually my sister who had uninvited me. I didn't go into too many details because I wasn't sure how he would react. I just wanted to be honest without dragging him into the full mess of our family drama. He seemed genuinely taken aback. After a moment, he reassured me that it must be some miscommunication, and told me that both he and my sister very much wanted me to be there for their wedding tomorrow. He even promised that he would talk to my sister and make sure everything was sorted out. About an hour later, my sister called me in a huff, clearly upset. She started scolding me for throwing her under the bus with her fiancé. According to her, he had now insisted that I be invited back, so technically I was allowed to attend the wedding again. I couldn't help but point out how she could have simply told her fiancé the real reason she didn't want me there in the first place. Her response shocked me. She admonished me, saying she couldn't do that because he just wouldn't understand. Not only had she treated me terribly, but she also seemed to expect me to silently accept being treated like a secret shame in front of her fiancé. She then went on, her voice sharp and almost demanding, saying that I had to attend the wedding now, but only in a way that would make her look bad in front of her fiancé. It was like she was trying to manipulate me into being part of her drama rather than letting me just be present as her sister. I took a deep breath and told her I would think about it. I needed time to process everything. Her anger, her manipulation, the sheer audacity of trying to control how I showed up at her wedding. I'm not about to let her dictate my actions or my feelings, even on her big day. Right now, I'm at a complete fix. My mind is racing. I don't even know how to feel about all this. Part of me wants to just walk away and refuse to be part of a day where my sister and even my parents have shown that they don't truly accept me. The thought of sitting there, smiling through the ceremony while knowing that they've treated me like a problem makes my chest tighten. At the same time, there's part of me that doesn't want to give her the satisfaction of letting her control me completely. My sister's fiancé genuinely wants me there, and that small bit of support reminds me that not everyone sees me as less than or as someone to hide. I feel torn between standing up for myself and preserving my own dignity and showing up despite everything, because deep down I care about my family, even if they've made it painfully clear how little they care about me. It's exhausting and confusing all at once, and I don't know what the right choice is. Update 3. I think I just ruined my sister's wedding. So against my better judgment, I decided to attend my sister's wedding. Part of me did it out of courtesy for her partner, who had genuinely reached out and wanted me there. He didn't know the full story, and I didn't want to disappoint someone who actually cared about me and wasn't part of my family's cruelty. Another part of me felt a strong urge to expose my family's hypocrisy. I was tired of hiding their truth, tired of pretending everything was okay when I had been treated so poorly. If given the chance, I wanted the world, or at least the people at the wedding, to see the reality of how my sister and parents behaved behind closed doors. I was done suppressing my voice or pretending their cruelty didn't exist. The perfect moment came after the wedding ceremony, when my sister's husband got up to give his speech. He took the time to thank me for all the planning I had done to make their wedding so special. As he spoke, you could see the genuine gratitude in his eyes. He wasn't just saying words, he truly meant them. Meanwhile, my sister sat there, barely acknowledging me. She just nodded her head as if she had to give a token recognition, but couldn't bring herself to actually appreciate what I had done. The contrast between them was staggering. On one side, someone was openly grateful and respectful. And on the other, my own sister, who had put me through months of stress and humiliation, couldn't even give me a real thank you. I decided then and there that this was my chance. All the frustration, humiliation, and heartbreak I had bottled up over the past months and even years needed to be acknowledged. I took a deep breath, feeling every pair of eyes in the room on me, stood up. My heart was pounding, my hands slightly trembling, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of control and clarity. "I have something important to say," I began, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "I've spent months planning this wedding, giving my time, effort, and love without expecting anything in return. I did it because I cared, because I love my sister, and because I wanted her day to be perfect. And yet, she has humiliated me repeatedly throughout this entire process." I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. "She changed her mind constantly, screamed at store staff, belittled me in front of her followers, treated me as if nothing I did mattered. And after all that, she tried to uninvite me from her own wedding. To make it worse, my own parents supported her decision. They agreed with her that I should not attend simply because of the way I look, because they were worried about their image." I looked around the room, my gaze sweeping over the guests. "I'm here today only because of her fiancé. He reached out to me and insisted I belong here and made sure my seat was reserved. Without him, I would have stayed away, silenced and hidden as my family wished." The room was completely silent. Some faces showed shock, others sympathy. My sister's expression was a mix of embarrassment, anger, and disbelief. My parents looked uneasy, caught between guilt and defensiveness. I felt a surge of adrenaline and resolve. I am an acid attack survivor, I continued, my voice firm. These scars are part of my story, my survival, and I will not hide them to make anyone else feel comfortable. I refuse to be treated like a shame or a problem. The room was still for a moment, everyone absorbing what I had said. I turned to face my parents, who were sitting there frozen, and said, with all the strength I could muster, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, that I no longer fit the image of your perfect little daughter. I am scarred, I'm flawed, and apparently that is enough for you and my sister to resent me. But I'm done apologizing for who I am. I am done making myself small to be accepted by the three of you. I am done seeking your validation. It is clear that my presence, my face, and my very existence make you uncomfortable, that you fear it somehow tarnishes the image of your family. Well, I'm done. I will no longer shrink myself to fit into your narrow idea of what is acceptable. I am here. I am me, and I refuse to hide or apologize for my survival any longer. That's when my sister suddenly jumped up, her face red with anger, and started yelling at me to shut up. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! How dare you try and ruin my wedding! She screamed. The gasps from the guests around us filled the room, and the tension was almost suffocating. Her partner turned towards her, eyes wide in disbelief, and asked gently but firmly, Is what your sister's saying true? Did you and your parents really treat her this way? My sister scoffed, rolling her eyes, and said, She's just trying to make me look like I'm a villain. I'm just trying to live a normal life alongside a sister who looks like her. Look at her face. Who in their right mind can accept her? The room went silent for a moment. There was a collective sense of disbelief and disapproval directed at her. Her partner shook his head slightly, clearly disturbed by her words, and the guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. For the first time it felt like my truth had pierced through the facade my sister and parents had been hiding behind for so long. I sat there, steadied by the knowledge that at least some people in the room now understood what I had endured, and that I wasn't alone anymore. My parents tried to calm my sister down, but she continued yelling, her voice rising with every word. That's when her mother-in-law firmly spoke up. With a calm but firm tone, she told my sister how deeply disappointed she was in her. The guests murmured their agreement with the mother-in-law, while my sister looked utterly humiliated. Her fury turned towards me, and she started trying to blame me for everything, as if I were the villain there. At that moment, I had reached my limit. I stood up, feeling the weight of all the months of stress, humiliation, and pain lift slightly off my shoulders. I grabbed my wine glass, downed it in one decisive motion, and calmly bid everyone farewell. My work here was done. I had spoken my truth, exposed the hypocrisy, and reclaimed my dignity. There was nothing more for me to prove. Later I found out that after I left, my sister's in-laws pretty much walked out as well. They were visibly disappointed in her behavior and didn't have much to say after seeing how she treated me. It was a quiet but powerful moment. Her actions had consequences, and people who mattered were not willing to ignore them. To make things even more dramatic, my sister's wedding had been live streamed for her followers on social media. To be honest, I had advised her against doing this. I had no idea she would go ahead with it anyway, but now, thanks to the live stream, everyone watching got to see her true self, the cruelty, the hypocrisy, the way she had tried to humiliate me. Everyone now knows her for who she really is. It's almost poetic justice. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.